Afternoon, Freckleton. It took me a while to get here today because there's like 3 Gregs and a McDonald's between where I live. And my brother said to me the other day, he said, Kevin, you need to take it easy on the fry-ups at your age. He said, at your age, you should be eating 2 lettuce per week. I mean, do you know how many Big Macs that is? It's 36. So with a bit of bad luck lately, give me an R. My girlfriend left me. I didn't ask for that one. She said I preferred my puzzle books to her, which was true. But 5 years together and never a crossword. Well, the last time I told that story, the poor old lady on the front row started crying. It was you. So I said, look, Mum. So I said, doctor, she said, I think you're an acute alcoholic. I said, thank you very much, you're not too bad yourself. I said, I think I might have insomnia. She said, do you want a prescription? I said, let me sleep on it. She said, you've got trust issues. I said, I don't believe you. I said, can I have a second opinion? She said, yes, you're also a prick. So the neighbours had got me watching him through my binoculars. I can see where they're coming from. So I've been trying to make a naughty movie, yeah? Not been able to finish it though because the neighbours keep closing the curtains. Now they are a lovely couple. I mean, I was around their house the other day doing a bit of wine tasting. I just hope they don't find out. So at my age, you know, I'm getting old now, so when it comes to my birthday, I get really excited because every year I get a lovely present from the NHS. Yeah, a bowel cancer test kit. I always take it seriously because bowel cancer is the number 4 killer of older people. Although you think it'd be the number 2 killer, really, wouldn't you? Now, I always get confused by the instructions because it's asking for stools. I've only got chairs. And the instructions are really difficult to read. I mean, to understand them, it'd be a PhD or something. So it said you must not put excessive poo in the envelope. Right? Now, I put a lot of poo in a lot of envelopes in my life, mainly to ex-girlfriends and members of Parliament that should remain nameless. Boris Johnson. So I had to Google how much poo should I put in an envelope. That's forever in my search history. But step 1 was actually, please poo into a sterilised container. Now I haven't got any sterilised containers. Only containers I had were in the freezer, and they're all full of curry. Had to poo into one of them. I took the curry out first, obviously. Not an animal. And then they give you this little probe, about this big, yeah? Which you have to dip into the poo, get the sample. Now I've been called a dipshit many times. I never actually thought I'd be one. So I eventually managed to get the poo into the envelope and post it off. But then I'm stuck with this container full of poo on it. What am I going to do with this now? I thought I don't want to have to go through this again. So I put it back in the freezer. Unfortunately, I forgot to take the label off, didn't I? So to resolve the situation, I've decided to have a curry gambling night. Russian poulette, if you like. The loser gets a bit of poo. So I've been watching the news a lot lately. There's not much going on, but I managed to find one story. And they were talking about banning pencils and rulers in schools. And where do you draw the line? When they start explaining them to each other. Well, you notice how I didn't move when I told that story because it's a stationary joke. Now, does anybody know what the oldest profession is? Nobody knows. It's actually DJs because disc jockeys have been around since records first began. Now, my brother called me up the other day and said, Kevin, I said, what? He said, that monster, Puff Daddy's going to change his name again. I said, did he? Does anybody like DIY in here? Yeah. Yeah, 2 people. I suppose there's that many. But I'm not good at DIY, you won't believe it, would you? But I had to get somebody round to my house to give me a quote for a shelf. I said, how much for this shelf, mate? He said, 50 quid. I said, can you put it up for me? He said, okay, 55 quid. I've written a poem about DIY. Do you want to hear it? Yeah. I'm going to do it anyway. So it goes like this. B&Q, DIY, FFS, SOB, WTF, OMG, 999, A&E, CPR, ECG, DOA, RIP. LOL. I'll tell you what annoys me most, insurance adverts. Do you like insurance adverts? No? Nobody likes them, do they? I was watching one the other day, it said, we can insure anything. I thought, I'll see about that. So I phoned them up and said, can you insure my duvet? Not with full cover. An additional blanket policy. So I was out for my monthly walk the other day and some maniac ran over to me and threw a load of joss sticks in my face. I was incensed. And over the road, a poor old lady had collapsed in the street. Poor old lady. She'd just been shopping. In her left hand, she had a bag of chickpeas. And her right hand, she had a bag of lentils. So I rushed over and took a pulse. Now, very some good news came out of that. Got a really nice career out of it. She died, unfortunately. So we're fans of the Kardashians in here? No. No, that's about normal. Even the Kardashians don't like the Kardashians, do they? So my brother is a big fan of the Kardashians. Though he phoned me up the other day and he said, Kevin, I said, what? He said, I bet you I can tell you the name of Kim Kardashian's ex-husband. I said, can you? He said, that's not his name anymore. I said, yay. Now I've got one, what you would call an edgy joke. It's not that bad. Are you alright with one edgy joke? Yeah. I've only had one complaint about this joke, and that was from my mother. So I'll do it anyway. It's not that bad. So I saw my ex in town the other day. I thought, she's let herself go. I should use a bit of padlock, really. I like to call her the one that got away. So, I've been getting some mad reviews lately, yeah. I think some of you may have written them looking at you. The first one said, "This guy's off the charts," yeah. That's from Diabetes UK. The second one said, "This guy's going to be huge." That's from Slimmer's World. The third one, which is my favourite, he said, "This guy's one to watch," yeah. That was from the North Lancashire Police Surveillance Team. I was out in, it was lovely. I mean, you've got a nice city nearby, haven't you, Preston? Yeah, very famous. I was out there this morning doing a bit of shopping, yeah. Managed to pick up some really nice little small plates and small dishes and some tiny forks. That was just for starters. So, recently had a bit of a issue with, people robbing people's front lawns. Yeah, where I live. Got the police round. 3 weeks later, they were there like a shot. I said, "What's up with this? Are people robbing lawns?" He said, "We think it's some kind of turf war." So do you remember? Some people may remember this show. Rainbow.
Yeah.
Remember that? Yeah. Some people don't know what it is. I'll explain as I go along. So, yeah, thanks. I'm all right with that. Okay. Kind of remember them. So Jeffrey, yeah, he was like a hipster. This is before U-Tree, although it wouldn't exist nowadays. He was like a hipster who wore a cardigan and dungarees, depending on what day it was. It's a kids' program, by the way. And, a proper weirdo. And he was a ringleader of a bunch of weirdos, right? So you had Bungle, who used to dress up in a teddy bear's outfit, yeah. He later went on to become Boris Johnson. And they had Zippy, what a zip for a mouth, yeah. Yeah, he was the gimp in the group. And then there was George, yeah. He was a hippopotamus. It really is true, I wasn't on drugs. He was a hippopotamus, right? And as far as I know, he later became an MP for Reform. I mean, Reform territory, didn't I? Only jokes. So, a lot of people don't know this, but Zippy, an identical cousin called Zippo. Yeah. Now, Zippy and Zippo were identical in every way. And I know this is true because it's in Wikipedia. And I wrote it. Now, Zippy and Zippo were identical in every way, except Zippo was a little lighter. I'll just finish a little story now. A few years ago I broke my finger, didn't get fixed. Any nurses in? Good, it's not bad. So, a few years I broke my little finger, and I ended up, I was at a comedy competition as well. And when the MC came on and said there's going to be a few breaks tonight, I didn't realise it were my fingers. And I actually ended up runner-up in that comedy competition. Yeah. My ex-girlfriend said, "That's the first time you've ever come second, Kevin." Now, I shouldn't, for anonymity's sake, let's call the comedy club the Frog and Bucket on Oldham Street, shall we? I ended up in A&E because my finger was all broken. Fell over on the way out. And I got to the A&E, and they do something called triage. Have anybody heard of that? So, because I'd had a fall, and I'm older, I could have ended up in a care home if I wasn't careful. So at the time, we had about 5 prime ministers in about 3 weeks. Do you remember that? A couple of years ago. So the first question they ask you in triage is, who's the prime minister? I said, I don't know, mate. I haven't checked the papers today. He says, you're fine, we're just messing with you. He sent me out into the sit down, and he said, Kevin, I said, what? He says, it's time to come back in 14 hours later. And he says, we've done a reassessment now. You're 15th in the queue. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, I said, if you're playing top trumps, who's in front of me? He said, well, there's 2 people who've had heart attacks. There's 3 people in a car crash. There's a guy with a ketchup bottle stuck into his bum. That was one of the doctors. And he said, there's also a guy projectile vomiting. I said, mate, that sounds like a good night out where I'm from. So I just stayed in there all night. They sent me to a place called Minor Injuries. Anybody been there? Yeah. Minor injuries. So I managed to get through after these 14 hours to minor injuries, and they said, Kevin, I said, what? I said, sorry about the wait. I said, I live near a Greg's. So get yourself off and get x-rayed. So I managed to find the x-ray. Yeah. Come back from the x-ray, got lost, didn't I? Luckily for me, there was 2 Liverpool nurses in there. I said, excuse me, love, I'm looking for minor injuries. So she punched me in the face. She said, well, that'll do you. Actually, I made that bit up because I was looking for a punchline for the last bit. I eventually got back to x-ray, and so you've got to come back to have your finger looked at, it's all dislocated and stuff. And I'm really proud of the fact that when I went back to the bone doctor a few days later, he pulled my finger. I didn't fart. So when I first started doing comedy, I never realised it'd be this good. I actually wrote a book called My First Year in Stand-Up Comedy. It's on Amazon, don't read it, nobody else does. And after today, I might write one called My Last Year in Stand-Up Comedy. Thank you very much, you're absolutely lovely.
Kevin O'Brien, everybody! So, we're going to have a little break and go and recharge your glasses in the bar. One more time for Kevin O'Brien! See you after the break.